Aloha and welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about penetration testing, and this is by far my favorite subject in all of cybersecurity. So pen testing, or penetration testing as it's called, some people call it ethical hacking. This is the authorized attack on a system to evaluate the system's security. So a penetration tester or pen tester attempts to breach some or all of the system's security controls by using tools and techniques an attacker uses. So there's four different types here we're going to talk about. Physical penetration testing evaluates the physical security measures like locks and access controls. So that's not like the computer itself. We're talking about physical access to a building that houses the computers. We're talking about the different things that are involved there, like getting around getting through a fence, or getting around security, or getting through those the tailgating, using tailgating to get into the building, getting around the RFID monitors, things like that. That's going to be the physical penetration testing. And then we've got offensive penetration testing. That's going to be targeting. That's going to target the breaching security measures from an attacker's perspective. You've got defensive penetration testing, and that's assessing the effectiveness of the defensive mechanisms against unauthorized access. And then you've got integrated penetration testing, which is combining the offensive and the defensive testing to provide a comprehensive security assessment. So the most important thing that you have when you're doing a pen test is the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement are by far the most important thing, because this is a document. This is a contract between you, the pen tester, and the company that is hiring you to do this work. That's the document that's described the conditions and the limitations under which you're going to be pen testing. And do know that there are legal implications around this thing. So if you are trying to do a pen test for a company and they say, hey, we want you to try to get in here, they're not just going to say, try to get in here. You've got to specify, are we talking physical location? Are we talking about digital assets? If we're talking about digital assets, what is the scope? The scope is very important. We don't talk about scope in this chapter, but it's something you have to talk about. The scope of your engagement is going to define what is inbounds and what is out of bounds. And if you make the mistake of let's say you're going after a web server that's this company that's hiring you is going to be let's say that you're supposed to do some kind of a compromise of their web server. If they aren't hosting it, if it's hosted on a third party server, you need permission from that company, and good luck getting that permission to let you hack a server that may be a shared server with other people on it, because that is probably not going to be granted. So you need to be very careful about what is specified in your rules of engagement. If you go after, let's say, if you are going after, the server that is hosted by another company, and you haven't gotten permission or clearance from that company, you're committing a crime, and you can be prosecuted for that, regardless of this rules of engagement document. Your rules of engagement have to specify, what you're allowed to do and what you're supposed to do, and you should not, you shall not deviate from those rules of engagement. Another thing that you usually have that's not talked about here is something called a get out of jail free card, and that is a document from the person that is your point of contact. So if you're doing a physical pen test and you're trying to get onto premises and security gets you, you pull out of your back pocket your get out of jail free card that's going to say something like, you've been hired by so and so, and they should call this number to verify that. And even that has been tricked sometimes. So I've heard of pen tests that have happened where they did use a get out of jail free card, but they also they used a fake number on it. So when they went and they called that number, it didn't go to the main person. So the engagement wasn't called off, but they did get out and they could continue their attack. So yeah, so you usually have this get out of jail free card, which is simply a letter from the person that's in charge of the engagement that says, hey, I did authorize this. This is what they're supposed to be doing. Congratulations on catching them, something like that. So anyway, you'll usually carry that if you're doing this kind of an attack. So there's something to remember about pen testing environments. So you have three different types of environment. You've got an unknown environment, or closed box pen testing, and that's when you're not given any information about the target system. That really mimics real world what an attacker is going to go through. You also have a partially known environment, and that's where a pen tester is provided with limited information on some of the target systems. And this is going to allow a little bit better. It's going to be the most efficient use of your time because it's going to allow you to test some of the systems that you normally wouldn't have access or knowledge of as an outsider, but it's going to give you a better testing of it. You can test more vulnerabilities. And then you've got a totally known environment or open box pen testing. And that's going to give you full privileges to everything and let you really pound on all the systems in there. And that is going to give you the most comprehensive vulnerability, testing, but it's not going to be the most realistic from an attacker's perspective, but it will give you the most vigorous testing of your equipment. And then we talked about reconnaissance. So reconnaissance is very important. You've got active reconnaissance, and you've got passive reconnaissance. So active reconnaissance, it's going to be collecting information through direct interactions. And then you've got passive reconnaissance, which you're just collecting information without actually directly interacting with them. So, for example, an active reconnaissance in a digital attack or a digital engagement, that's going to be when you're doing port scans, when you're actively going out there and scanning the ports and doing things. That's active reconnaissance. You've got passive type things too, and passive can be just collecting Wireshark kind of data where you're just pulling in things passively. You're not influencing anything. You're not going out and touching anything. And then you can also do OSINT, which is open source intelligence gathering. And OSINT, the most popular ways of doing OSINT is usually LinkedIn. So, for example, if you wanted to attack a big company, let's say, I don't know, let's not use the name, Company A. So what you do is you go out there and you look on LinkedIn and you see people that currently work there, and you look at the skill sets they have listed. You look at the computer systems that they work on. You can get an idea that this is probably what they're using at their current company. So if you go out there and you can get an idea of what they're going to be doing. You can also learn about these individuals. You can get information on them, social information on them. You can look them up on Instagram, on Facebook, all these different ways. You can get information about the people that you're going to be dealing with in these engagements. And I've heard of some amazing stories where people were able to phish some of these people using information they found and then getting some kind of an in with them, and then using that as leverage once they started their actual pen test engagement. So so keep that in mind that OSINT is really powerful. You can find out a lot about people online because people give this information up for free. You can find it on LinkedIn, you can find it on social media, and you can really use that in these pen tests. So passive reconnaissance techniques they mentioned, also war driving. War driving is the act of searching for wireless networks from moving vehicles. So as you go around, you'll see all these networks that pop up. That's war driving. You also have war flying, which is a new thing. That's the act of searching for wireless networks from a flying object like a drone, a helicopter, or an airplane. If it's an airplane, I don't know how low you're going at that point, but that would be scary. Yeah. So anyway, just know that you can use active and passive reconnaissance. You usually do use these things, when you're doing some kind of an engagement. So these that we talked about here were mostly digital engagement. You also have these things for the physical. So when you're actually breaking into a building, you'll do observation. You'll go to Google Maps first. Most people end up most pen testers will go to Google Maps, they'll look at the layout of a building, they'll figure out where the different cameras are, they'll figure out where the different points of entry are, they'll figure out where the security guards are, where the fencing is, where all the barriers are. They try to look at it really well, and then they fly to the location or go to the location somehow. And then once they're there, they try to figure out the timing, the schedules of everybody, figure out how they can probably get an entry into the building. So yeah, so all this stuff happens for physical pen testing, also happens on the digital side as well. Then we have pen testing techniques. We talk about lateral movement. Lateral movement is when you've gone from one compromised host that you've gotten access to, you move to another host on the same network. So the idea is that you get in, you penetrate, and then after you've done that, you move laterally in the system to try to get access to other assets in there. There's also the idea of pivoting. Pivoting is the act of using a compromised system as a platform to launch attacks against the other systems. So pivoting bypasses the security controls aimed at preventing the unauthorized access to internal systems, such as those implemented by the firewalls. We've got something called persistence. We kind of hinted at this before when we talked about advanced persistent threats, APTs. APTs are usually state actors. Once they get in your system, they work on advanced persistent, gaining persistence for long term, staying in the game. In other words, staying in that system, staying unseen, staying hidden, and making sure that they have access to that system at all times. And they do that through different things. They make sure that they've got that foothold in your system, even if credentials are changed or systems restarted or anything's interrupted. They want to make sure that they've still got access to it somehow. That's persistence. And when they're done with everything, they really work hard on the cleanup aspect, which is removing all traces of themselves. They want to make sure that the environmental changes they did to get in there during the attack are cleaned up. They want to make sure that the log files that show that they were in there are erased, or at least modified to the point that it doesn't look suspicious. So they're going to undo the configuration changes and delete the accounts that they may have created to maintain that persistence as well. So often, if you get into a system, you want to have a backdoor or something like that. So you'll create an alternative set of credentials. So that's something that when you're trying to get out and leave no trace, you remove those as well. So last thing we're going to talk about responsible disclosure programs. A responsible disclosure program, it's going to give you a framework for reporting and addressing security vulnerabilities in a controlled and ethical manner. So if you find some problems with a company, instead of exploiting it or just going out there and letting it be known and have people hack it, you are going to go through this reporting system and let them know in a controlled, ethical manner so that they can address those issues before it becomes known that there was a problem. And then some companies have bug bounty programs, and those are very cool. They've been around for a couple decades now. But this is a program where a company will say, hey, come and bang on our software, bang on our website, try to get in, try to, get access to it. And if you do, or if you are successful in breaking in, then, we'll be happy to, reward you with some kind of a bounty. And that's why it's called a bug bounty program. And a lot of hackers, ethical hackers, go out there and they make serious money this way. So, so this is a really good program. I was at DEF CON earlier this year, DEF CON, yay. So when I was at DEF CON, Linksys, who is right now in some hot water with the government, Linksys, or no, not Linksys, TP Link, I believe it was. Yeah, TP Link was there, and they're in the hot water with the government. But TP Link had a representative there, and one of the speakers that was giving a demonstration was showing how you could get in with a TP-Link camera or something like that, how to easily hack it. And the guy from TP-Link, instead of being mad and threatening lawsuits and such, he was happy. He brought the guy a bunch of swag, thanked him, said, "Here, please join our bug bounty program. We'd be happy to work with you." And it's great. Security researchers make use of these bug bounty programs. So keep that in mind if that's your kind of thing. So anyway, let's recap. We're talking about pen testing, the fun thing of pen testing. It's also called ethical hacking. We've got physical pen testing, offensive, defensive, and integrated pen testing. The most important thing by far is the rules of engagement, knowing what the boundaries are, knowing your scope. We've got, we're going to be doing pen testing 3 different ways: in an unknown environment, closed box, or black box testing. We've got partially known environment, which is the more gray, and that's when you're given a little bit of information, but not a lot. And then you've got a known environment, or I think it's called a white box test. We don't call it that in this chapter, but I think that's what it used to be taught as anyway. And that's when you got full access and you can do a really thorough, testing and vetting of all the different vulnerabilities. And then we've got reconnaissance. We talk about active and passive reconnaissance. We've got war driving, war flying, and then we've got the penetration testing techniques like lateral movement, moving from one compromised host to another one on the same network. And we've got pivoting, which is the idea of using the compromised system to gain, to do attacks against other systems since you're behind the firewall now. And then we've got persistence, which is the act of staying active and alive in that network. and not getting, knocked out by, credential changes, restarts, or, power outages or whatever it is. And we've got the active cleanup, which is, erasing all, trace of you being there. So, and then we've got lastly the responsible disclosure program and the bug bounty program. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll see you in the next video. Aloha.